I had 2 strawberry plants planted in this little container here. I want to talk to you today, just something real short. It's about why you should consider fixing it yourself. Fixing what? Fixing anything, everything, anything you can think of. Your car, your house. And so part of the kind of the homesteading, modern homesteading mindset is that you only have to make as much money as you spend. And let that sink in for a second. You only have to make as much money as you spend. Now, it's not that you don't want to make more money. Clearly, you want to have a nest egg. You want to, have a savings. You want to be able to give away a lot of money to friends, family, neighbors, just people in need. Charities. You want to be able to invest. Sure, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you only have to make as much money as you spend. So the less that you spend, the less you have to make, and therefore. And generally speaking, the less you'd have to work in a job that maybe you don't enjoy all that much, which I know is the case with a lot of you. So some of you have your dream job and you love it and you love to do it, and then some of you, your dream is to farm or homestead, and you're trying to figure out how do I get away from this job that I don't like. So you want to reduce the amount that you have to have in income. That way you just make it up another way. So you can, if you have a sustainable garden, a sustainable process for livestock, animal husbandry practices and different things. So there's all these things that we can do. One of those big things though is DIY, fix it yourself. So if you invest in some tools, some of them can be cheap, some of them need to be higher quality. Buy high quality at once, maybe never buy it again, or only buy it once every 20 years. I want to give you just a quick story about something that happened to me here yesterday. Let me cover these strawberries back up. If I don't cover up these ripe strawberries, these red strawberries, the birds will swoop in like they're going to battle and take these strawberries away. So I'm going to take you inside the house, and here in our laundry room, I walked in yesterday, and it had already been a long day, and I walked in, and my wife was like, hey, there's water in the floor by the dryer, washer and dryer. And I looked around, the whole room was steamed up. There was water covering everything, steam all over the windows. And then she was like, in the bedroom, in the master bedroom, the power's out. I was like, what in the world is going on? And so here's what you got to know. If you come into this thinking, wow, this is connected because it all happened at the same time, and there's no way like I could figure out how to diagnose the problem, the issue. If you just come in overwhelmed, then you're gonna have to call somebody, and they're gonna charge you $50 to $100 just to come out. And then they're going to tell you how much it's going to cost, and then they might even add in a few things. So it depends on if you get an honest repair person, then you might do better. If you get somebody that's dishonest, or they just want to throw in some extra stuff that doesn't need to be done, I mean, who knows? You can look at a 10x cost of what it should be. So anyway, if you get overwhelmed all up front, then it's going to be difficult for you to even begin to diagnose the problem. So the number one thing is approach the issue, deep breath, don't be overwhelmed. Do not be overwhelmed. Take a step back, take a broad overview of the situation, just see what you got, see what you're dealing with. Now, different people have different skill sets, different abilities, and so I'm not saying that everybody can do everything right off the bat. So it might take you years to kind of tune into these different skills, but hey, there's a lot you can learn through forums, through YouTube, all these things. It doesn't make you an expert, so don't think you're just going to be an expert and fix it all right away. Don't think you're going to be a master electrician because you watch some YouTube videos. There are some things you just got to be extremely cautious about and call in a professional. But there are a lot of things, I'd say most things, you can do it yourself. And you at least need to give it a try. And so a room full of mist, full of water covering everything, water in the floor, electricity off in a room, it's on the other side of the house. What's going on? So here I want to figure out, the first thing is what's going on in the laundry room connected to the master bedroom? So I start asking questions. Well, what happened when the power went out? What happened when you started seeing this water? First thing I realized, once I start talking to people, is I find out that, well, I turned a heater on in the master bedroom, and so the power went out. Well, there you go. There's the problem. It just was coincidence that this happened in the master at the same time as this happened in the laundry room. And so I go and I hit that breaker switch. I flip it off and flip it back on, and I unplug the heater, and we make sure that we don't overload that circuit, and then we're done. So it's just coincidence that the master bedroom power went out at the same time. And so then we got to go into the laundry room and figure out what's going on. So here we are in the house, in the laundry room, and looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. Looking back here behind the washer dryer, we have a stack unit, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But trying to figure out what's going on here. And first thing I wanted to see is how much water is there in the floor. Well, I look down and there's hardly any water in the floor, just very, very little. And then I start looking around and trying to feel out, well, where's the water coming from? So I'm feeling around where the hoses are at. I'm looking to make sure all the connections are tight. Well, they're fine. There's no water spewing out of any hose connections. There's just not any issue. And then I start asking questions about, well, were you washing something? You know, and then come to find out, at the time this was happening, there was the load in the washer was already done. It was a small load. It was just one coat. I'm realizing that it's probably not the washer, which is weird, right? So I'm thinking, what can I look at next? And then I go and I start pulling out the dryer and washer, pulling it away from the wall, taking a look at all the connections. And then I notice that the exhaust hose, which is not this one, this is the one I replaced it with, that there was a hole in the exhaust hose, and the exhaust the exhaust pipe that comes from the dryer that goes into the floor and then takes the condensation and lint and stuff, takes and throws it outside. So there's a big load of towels. When you have a big old load of towels like this, then you have a lot of water. You have a lot of condensation coming off of those towels, and it's going to have to be pumped out through this vent in the back and pumped down into your exhaust pipe and outside. Now, if there is a clog in your exhaust pipe, you're going to have issues where it's going to start making a lot of noise, and because it's trying to push that through and it can't, and so then it starts overloading your dryer. You'll probably have a breaker kick off eventually. And then, or if you have a hole in your exhaust, what that's going to mean is that all that condensation, instead of it going through that exhaust, down here from the back and around to the outside and down outside, instead of that happening, it's going to just pump it right into the room. And so the whole room is going to become like a sauna, right? Have you ever been in a sauna where, it's just full of humidity? Well, that's what's going to happen in your laundry room, and that's what happened in ours. So here's my point. I could have looked at that and said, oh my goodness, we got a room full of condensation, we got water in the floor, we got a room across the house where the power has gone out. This is overwhelming. I can't do this. This is beyond my pay grade, so to speak. But instead, you take a deep breath, take a step back, start just reasonably thinking through things, ask questions, and eventually you figure out it's simple. $10, I buy a rigid pipe, replace that old cheap pipe, just put it all back together. I made some corrections though. I moved this washer dryer. It was up against this wall, pushed back toward the back wall. So I moved it to the middle and I pulled it out away from the wall. That way we don't have any issue with it pinching this new pipe here. If I start to see it creeping, here if I start to see it moving back, like if the washer's shaking, the dryer's shaking, and this thing moves back and back, then what eventually I'll do, I'll put like a 2x4 or something like that, or a couple of 2x4s on the back wall to hold this unit away from the wall so it can't be pinched. So that's really it. That's really what I wanted to talk to you about, is just that you can do it yourself. You don't, in most cases, I think that most people do not have to call in a repair person. Now that's not always great news for people who are in the business of appliance repair or whatever it might be, but with some little know-how, you can switch out a exhaust hose or exhaust pipe on a dryer. You could even tear this thing apart with a little know-how. You just gotta, the first thing is to make sure you have proper precautions in place. So you make sure first off that there's no power going to these units. But same thing with your automobile. Make sure you're looking into safety precautions for if you're working on your car, working on your house. All these things require safety precaution, but I'm going to leave that up to you. You're smart enough. You can figure that out. So anyway, just a bit of encouragement. Reduce the amount that you need to bring in, and that means you'll reduce the amount, reduce the amount that's going out. That means you'll be able to reduce the amount of money coming in, which means you'll be able to spend more time doing things that you really want to be doing. And unless you're one of those fortunate people, again, that has the job that you just love, and then you can't work enough, right? But anyway, I hope that's an encouragement to you. Go ahead and, if you don't mind, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to receive notification when we have more videos posted. All right, have a good day now, and I'll see you soon.